The current situation in U.S. politics, and we're starting in the U.S. today, we're going to go all over the world. But the current situation in U.S. politics requires Dark Brandon, not Joe Biden. We are having a nonsense argument over the debt ceiling. We don't need to have this argument. We had an opportunity to take care of it with the last Congress, but they chose to go home instead of dealing with it. So what are we left with? We are negotiating with bad faith actors. We don't have to. There's a legal way out of this. It's the 14th Amendment. What is the legality of that? Is it really written in the books that we can use that? Here's the proposal I have to you going in. And then we're gonna look at how sure either side is about this. The proposal I have to you going in is who gives a damn? When have Republicans ever genuinely cared about the rules? When has the conduct of their opponent ever dictated what they are going to say about their opponent? According to Republicans, Joe Biden is a socialist. Joe Biden, a lifelong neoliberal, a guy who is more conservative than the average conservative around the world. That Joe Biden, they say he's a socialist. Who is Joe Biden trying to please by working with these clowns? Forget even that. What does he think will be accomplished? What does he think they're doing anything other than playing a political game? Have a look at what people are saying about this. Oh, this is very much not what I intended. All right, let's try out this here. Stand by. Hey, there we go. All right, this is an article from Politico. Let's have a gander. Court sets legal showdown on debt limit, 14th Amendment argument. Justice Department lawyers declined to say whether Biden has the power to defy a debt cap. So they declined to say whether or not he has that power. In other words, according to the Justice Department lawyers, maybe, maybe not. If it's maybe, just do the thing. Just do the thing. Ask for forgiveness if you must, but don't, frankly, lower yourself. A judge in Boston has ordered a hearing next week on one of the key arguments. Hold up. There we go. On one of the key arguments that President Joe Biden has the legal authority to ignore the debt limit statute and continue to pay the federal government's bills. I submit to you that not only does he have the authority, he has the obligation. And the time to sort out who's correct about that will be after it's paid. U.S. District Court Judge Richard Stearns set a May 31 hearing on a lawsuit filed by a federal workers union contending that the 14th Amendment empowers Biden and other officials to sidestep the standoff with Congress that has threatened a potential default. So what he could do, if I understand this correctly, what he could do is simply not argue this case. Say in court, you know what? They're right. They're correct. Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen has said the so-called X date for a default could come as soon as June 1st, just one day after the scheduled arguments on the National Association of Government Employees' request for a preliminary injunction requiring Yellen to keep paying bills and salaries as usual. In other words, the harmed parties here, the people who standing in court, are the people who wouldn't get paid because the government got caught up in, once again, GOP nonsense, Republican nonsense. They've done this before. They've deeply impacted the lives of people working for the U.S. government before. They've caused the United States to have its credit rating downgraded before. We've been through this dance. We already knew who these people were the first time they did it. And the politicians in power, which included Barack Obama, should have known better. But now there is not even the excuse of being new to these tactics. We understand who these people are. And it's ridiculous to me that Joe Biden wants to please them in any way. I don't know what he thinks he's doing politically, but it does not give the people that will consider voting for him a lot of confidence to see him struggle with the House Minority Leader over such a thing. During a brief video conference Tuesday morning, Stearns sounded skeptical of arguments from the union's lawyers that disaster for the nation is impending if he did not put the case on an even faster track. If the emergency is as dire as you think it is, I would think that it's within the power of the president to address it using executive branch authority, said Stearns, an appointee of former President Bill Clinton. Well, gosh, I would think that too. Before setting the May 31 argument date, Stearns said he didn't see the union's request for a decision by June 1st as realistic. I understand there are time constraints given the events are developing probably even as we're meeting that probably make a decision prior to June 1st impossible, the judge said. Stearns did not get a direct answer when he asked Justice Department lawyer Alexander Ely whether the department disagrees with the central argument in the suit. Interesting, that the 14th Amendment's assurance that the U.S. debt shall not be questioned, shall not be questioned, means the president can ignore a statute capping the national debt. And on and on and on. Let me go to the very bottom here. Nope. 2 up from the bottom. The union's lawyer also suggested DOJ is playing for time to avoid staking out a position that could have a profound effect on the ongoing talks between the White House and the Republican House leader. Okay, here's what I'm seeing. Suggested from a big fancy lawyer. Their opinion from a big fancy lawyer. An attorney for the union, yada, 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 a judge, a whole lot of people saying, I think, well, if it works this way, then it must, and then if they don't know, is the answer. This hasn't been established. Well, gosh, looks like we should establish it. So what am I advocating for here? Grabbing Joe Biden by the scruff of the neck and demanding he bring forth Dark Brandon. This nonsense has got to stop. I just had a thought about the kind of community posts I'm going to do for a while here. I'll show you the White House letter or the contact form for the White House that I'm going to fill out later. But it breaks down to this. I am going to tell Joe Biden, and I recommend you do as well, that I elected him to deal with Republican madness, not to beg them for permission to run the country. We don't have the time at this point or the energy to deal with this nonsense. We have enough. There was an attempted coup that has yet to be handled. We don't need more nonsense. If he wanted to give them an opportunity to put forward a budget that was reasonable, fine. He gave them that opportunity. The time has come and gone. They have shown they are going to continue acting like madmen. Treat them as such. Demand that Joe Biden treat them as such. Contact Joe Biden. Tell him to use the 14th Amendment. Tell him that, or I recommend saying that the country has already voted MAGA nonsense out of office early. Any form that it takes, whether it be an instigator or someone who is simply too weak, too silly, too naive to handle it properly, it will be voted out again. Now look, the guy's got my vote because the alternatives are all monsters. It's going to be real hard to make people excited for Joe Biden, which is why I hope the candidate that runs is Dark Brandon. Call him out. Get him there.